How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. It is Michael Parker. This is Michael Parker Media. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, season greetings. Whatever you celebrate, you are welcome here, and we are glad to have you. Today's guest is A.J.Rice. He's been called the GOAT of conservative media. He's the president and CEO of Publius PR. He's the best-selling author of 2 books, The Woking Dead, and his current tome, The White Privilege Album. A.J., welcome to the show.
Mikey boy, great to be here. Great to see your face. I want to wish everyone out there a White Privilege Album Christmas. Okay, have a good White Privilege Album Christmas.
Hey, we can still say Merry Christmas, right?
We can. We absolutely can. It's back. Christmas is back. Cinco de Mayo's out. No, I'm joking. Cinco de Mayo can stay.
Ladies and gentlemen,
we're here for everybody. We're here for everybody.
Yeah, we're going to have fun today, and we're going to poke fun at a lot of things. So I hope you'll bear with us. I think my audience is intelligent enough to rock all of that, no pun intended, with the Elon Musk rock, which I still don't have. I haven't signed up for the full-on X experience yet. Have you done that?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, maybe I have. I don't know. I got people running the Twitter handle or whatever the hell it's called now. So yeah, we might have to boost some things, but we're on all these social media handles now. It's interesting what has going on here. The social media seems, and at least big tech seems to, they had a glass jaw, and Trump and Elon and RFK Jr. broke it, and they're all coming home now, right? They're all coming home for various reasons. A lot of it's self-interest, but it's nice to see Zuckerberg and Bezos and Tim Cook, skipping into Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring.
100%. And it's funny because we're going to be talking about media towards the end of this because I have some ideas, which I think you probably share. But before we get into this, I'm going to ask you about a couple of current stories. And first of all, AJ, what the hell's going on with the drones?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in Washington, D.C. We don't have any drones yet here.
Maybe some human ones.
Yeah. I mean, I've got drones. Yeah, there's drones running most of the swamp. Not the drones that we're looking for in the sky. Most of them are on the ground, collecting dust behind the Venetian blinds. But, I'm not quite sure. My gut is it is a foreign power. That's my gut. The question is the foreign power the drones, or are the drones looking for a foreign power? Or I don't think it's just a bunch of kids that just left Best Buy and hanging out in their garage. I think Trump probably knows what it is. I mean, look, we are not France. We are not Portugal. So I'm from Philadelphia. I spent 20 years at the Jersey Shore, at least, every summer, probably more than that. Probably 20 that I can remember, another 10 thanks to the Jameson I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you, these people in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, they're going to start shooting these things down. Yeah. They're going to.
Yeah.
Okay? The Italians in the north are going to start shooting it down their way. Uncle Paulie's going to shoot it down. Paulie Walnuts. And as you come down through the Pine Barrens in the South Jersey, where Trump had 80,000 people on the beach in Wildwood, that's a different type of New Jersey down there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's, Vineland. It's Philadelphia. It's Eagles fans. Most of those Eagles fans know how to bring a drone down, especially if the drones have that Dallas Cowboys star sticker on the side of it, right? You stick that Cowboy sticker on these drones, and I'm telling you right now, those drones will be gone. They'll be in the Schuylkill River, the Delaware River. We'll be firing them. They'll be ending up on the beaches of Rehoboth.
AJ, I'm a long-suffering Cowboys fan. I'm from Texas.
Well, you're talking to
I know.
A 4-for-4 Eagles fan, as I'm sure you can hear. So, and look, it's funny. I got a lot of Cowboys fans in my orbit, which this year it's been fun, but it's almost not fun in the sense that they're really shot. I mean, they're shot. They look bad. So I like it. I like when the Cowboys fans have hope. It's more fun to rag on them when they have hope. When they have no hope, which is now, not as much fun. It's kind of like that old dog that comes into the room. It's like kind of like half in the bag, half dead, got like no hair on it. Its name is Dak or Romo or something. And you're just like, oh, there's that dog. He's still alive. I can smell him. I can smell him from Oklahoma City there. Anyway,
Yeah.
but no, it's not. It's not fun to kick the Cowboys fans this year. The Giants aren't much better.
Nope.
But look, I'm in DC, so I'm dealing with the Redskins fan. I'm
Easy,
dealing
Tiger.
with the Redskins fans. Okay, Commanders. I don't know what kind of commander we're dealing with there. You know, they should have called them the Rear Admirals, but I think the San Francisco 49ers are working on changing their name to that because, as you know, the 1849 Gold Rush was a racist event. Okay, everything's racist. You know that. I write about it in the book. When the 49ers showed up to take that gold from someone, I'm sure. I don't know who it was from, but they took it from somebody there in California. So they're going to have to change their name to the Rear Admirals, the 49ers.
Oh my goodness. Well, hey, let me just top one thing on the drone thing. It's a real deal. And you're right. I mean, at some point, people will take it into their own hands. But the thing that's kind of amused me about this is that the last several days is when Mayorkas or Kirby or these guys come out. Oh, there's nothing to see here. Everything's hunky dory. It makes me think they in their minds, they're kind of like thinking, well, you guys are acting like maybe we had something to do with it at this pivotal point in time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Congressman Van Drew.
Yeah.
I never got the sense that he's a total maniac that should be committed.
Right.
So he's not going to go on TV. He's a former Democrat, became Republican. He's in like a.
I didn't know that
district.
part.
Yeah, he's in like a purple district, although it's more red now than ever. I mean, look, Trump lost New Jersey by about 11 percentage points in 2020 and only lost it this time by 4. So, look, New Jersey's got a reckoning coming. And I would just say that I don't think Congressman Drew is going to go on TV and say, without just make this stuff up. He said he had sources.
Right.
The sources told him that there's an Iranian ship. He said mothership, which, they went and they called Richard Dreyfuss up. But I mean, he said mothership, and it's basically a crappy boat that these things are taking off from.
Yeah.
Right. I would think, though, that we would have sunk this thing. Although Biden doesn't do stuff like that. He let that balloon, float across the entire. And that balloon, by the way, was the Cowboys' current coach. You know that, right? That was Mike McCarthy. It was Mike McCarthy. He was floating across the United States on his way to nowhere. But I would say that also I've got to think that Musk knows what they are.
100%.
Okay, so just because Musk knows things that he shouldn't know, there's all kinds of stories I've been given about Musk knowing who won the election at 7:00 on election night. He walked up to Dana White and said something like, "I'm leaving. Donald won. I'll be back at midnight," or some crazy crap. Trump won at 3. I guess they called it at 3 a.m. East Coast time. But it's a weird thing. But with Starlink and some of the things he's into, I think they've got to know what they are. I mean, right?
I agree.
I mean, come on.
This is my final thought on this, and then we'll move on to the book and some other things. But I actually think they're ours. What they're up to. I mean, I've pretty much heard all the theories. I'm not going to go on the record saying what I think it is because I don't really know. But I think they're ours. But it's also kind of exciting. Personally, I hope they're aliens and not the ones across the border. But that's just me. Hey, so yesterday, the Electoral College, Trump won. And of course, immediately, New York Governor Kathy Hochul and a couple, I think 3 Democratic senators, Brian Schwartz, Dick Durbin, Peter Welch, they all introduced this proposed constitutional amendment to get rid of the Electoral College. Seems like we go through this every time
they lose.
Republicans win, and they lose. Explain why that's a terrible idea.
Well, look, it's a check and balance on. I mean, it's an aspect of federalism, and it's a check and balance. I mean, now it's a check on New York and California, and quite frankly, for the Democrats, it's a check on Texas and Florida. For sure. And in the early days of the Republic, it was a check on Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, because they were the 3 powerhouses at the time. So, Rhode Island and the Carolinas and Maryland, Delaware could get screwed over at any minute if it was just some game where Philadelphia and Boston could control everything, right? If it was just a straight one person, one vote, direct democracy, as they like to say. So it is a form of federalism that protects states that, quite frankly, the loser governors of New York and California would like to, pretend doesn't exist. What's crazy, though, is you better be careful. Better be careful with this stuff. Sometimes they're for the Electoral College, sometimes they're against it.
Yeah.
If you look at the trends that took place in this election, in 2024 election, and if you look at the maps of New York and especially California in particular, from 2020 to 2024, and you go county by county, we don't really have red states and blue states. We have a red country with blue cities.
Right.
And little sort of pockets of blueberry in some of these places where you have some left-wing college or some, the zip codes. The whitest zip codes in America are also the most left-wing. And conveniently, Barack Obama has a house in all of them. And that's because he's the second black president, because the first black president was a white guy, chubby white guy from Arkansas.
Yeah,
so
I remember him well.
Yeah, so if you look at California in particular, and you've spent, we always hear about the replacement theory. Democrats talk about the replacement theory being this group of white people that I've never met that are worried that non-Western European people are going to come here and replace them. They're going to be in line with them at Home Depot, which is a fraud. But there is a replacement theory. The Democrats have been working on it for some time because they know, and you saw it this election, that African Americans are eventually, not because of their policy, but in spite of them, going to become members of the middle class. They're going to try to hold on to their nuclear family, which is why the left does everything they can to destroy the nuclear family in the middle class. And we can get into that. That's what the book's about. But they're eventually going to rise. They could rise faster if it wasn't for Lyndon Johnson, if it wasn't for Barack Obama, if it wasn't for FDR. They could have rose faster because the goal is always to make sure to supplant the father and have the government become the father. But they've been panicking for some time as African Americans, male and female, get more educated, make more money, and leave some of these blue cities that are captured by left-wing politics. They needed a replacement for them. The Democrat Party has been trying to concoct a replacement for African Americans for some time. Now, the Democrat Party was the party of segregation, the party of the Civil War, the party of the Ku Klux Klan, the party of the Jim Crow laws, on and on and on and on and on. Al Gore's father voted against the Civil Rights Amendment when Barry Goldwater voted for it. So that's who they are. And I think their plan was, they sat there and they said, I know, let's replace African Americans with a group of people that never get divorced, that are all Catholic, that never have abortions, and are all escaping some Marxist hellhole. Let's bring them here. That's what we'll do. We'll replace black with brown. Well, it turns out that they've been importing their own demise. Because if you look at that map of California and you go county by county, yeah, you got the fancy people by Lake Tahoe and Marin County, and you got the dumps. You got the Sacramento dump and the LA dump and the San Francisco dump. But for the most part, I'll leave San Diego out of it for now, a lot of military there. But for the most part, if you look at the difference between the 2020 map and 2024 map, it's becoming redder in California.
Yes.
It's becoming redder, not because a bunch of Scandinavians showed up. Okay? It's becoming redder because at some point, Republican Hispanics are going to retake California for the Republican Party. If the Republican Party doesn't blow it, okay? This stuff pisses me off. I'm Catholic, right?
AJ, I've lived in LA for 30 years, and I've seen this place just absolutely decimated by these policies. And it's reached a crescendo, in the last 10 years. We here in LA, we just got rid of George Gascon, thank God, because
that's right.
these types of progressive policies, really who they hurt, and this is kind of an underlying theme of what I want to talk to you about, is, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I think the road to hell is paved with disingenuous good intentions. And the policies that Gascon, Prop 47, all of that, I mean, it is really destroyed certain areas of Los Angeles, San Francisco. And when retail giants, large CVS, drugstores, coffee shops, et cetera, decide to move out, who does that hurt? Sure. It hurts the underserved populations in those communities who wanted those to be there, but now they've been driven out because there is no law and order.
Right. And look, let me just say this. There was 2 blue walls that came down on election day, right? 2 blue walls, not 1, 2. Now, you heard about the Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan one. We could get into that. I mean, Donald Trump somehow, and that's why, look, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides, Donald Trump brought racial harmony on election day. He got the Jews in Philadelphia to vote the same way as Dearbornistan, the Muslims in Michigan. Okay? I don't know how he did it. He's like Abraham from the Bible. Anyway, my point is this. 2 blue walls. Every 6 years, we get told, ooh, Ted Cruz is going to lose. Here they come. Here comes Beto. Here comes the next backbencher, and the next backbencher, and the next backbencher. One after another. Liz Cheney shows up, which is really just Dick Cheney in drag. Liz Cheney shows up, and we're going to get this guy. They get clobbered. Ted Cruz is not going to lose. So the second blue wall goes from Brownsville, Texas, to El Paso. And it's all these counties along the Texas-Mexican border. And like I just said, not exactly filled with people from Norway and Finland.
Not a lot of Nordics.
So that blue wall came down too. So if you extrapolate that to California, understand, California will be retaken by Republican Hispanics because, just like George W. Bush said, I don't get to quote him that often anymore. Family values don't stop at the Rio Grande. Well, turns out MAGA values don't stop at the Rio Grande either. Okay? So they're here. They're coming. The people that are here legally, people that are paying taxes and then maybe on their way to becoming legal, they shouldn't really be worried because Tom Homan and Trump are going after criminals.
Right.
And guess what? A lot of them are not Hispanic at all. There is a bunch of Chinese 100%. Running. There are millions of Chinese running around inside this country. I don't know what they're doing. Somebody say, "Oh, well, they're running a restaurant or a laundromat." Maybe. The others might be taking pictures of our nuclear power plant. I don't know.
Which they have done. And let me just interject one thing when you bring that up. So several years ago, the last time we spoke, one of the stories that I covered, and it didn't really get much traction at the time, but it's since they're within major urban areas. The Chinese do have secret stations where they spy on other Chinese and just people. It came out in the LA Times finally, it kind of went away. But I'm with you. I mean, the whole idea of the illegal immigration issue that I think people misunderstand is that they think that all of these people that are coming here are, and look, I get it. The people who are coming here for the right reasons, I get it. And that's fine. But within that open door, you're also allowing a huge amount of people who are not coming here with the right reasons. And then they're being afforded debit cards and places to stay and various things, which regular people do not get. So, I mean, it's become ludicrous, but this whole thing is ludicrous. And AJ, let me change gears, because one more thing I want to ask you before we move to the book is one of the reasons that I voted for Trump for the third time, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I voted for Trump 3 times now, is that he assembled these group of people who I admire greatly. And I think that you've worked with several of these people. So Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Vivek Ramaswamy. I was wondering if you could and 2 of those people used to be Democrats. And I was just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit. I think you know these people.
Yeah. So my day job is running Publius PR here in Washington. And when Trump showed up and the OG came down the golden escalator, a lot of the PR firms, you talk about the media or the never Trumpers or the whoever, people that immediately threw in with the Democrats, wasn't just media people, wasn't just, National Review and some of these other characters. A lot of the PR firms either threw in with the 18 other people that were running against Trump in 2016, or they just totally moved to the Democrat Party. They started the Lincoln Project, whatever the hell they did, right? So the field was sort of cleared, and I've been with Trump in some capacity since 2016. And during this last decade, I've had the opportunity to do media and communications for a good chunk now of what will be Trump's cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
So you could call me Kevin Bacon, which I would appreciate. I'm the MAGA Kevin Bacon, but it's not 6 degrees. It's 1, 2. I'll take it. Kevin Bacon's from Philly. But Publius PR is at the center of the MAGA cinematic universe. So it didn't happen by mistake. There's not a lot of PR firms that right of center people go to and can trust. And not just because we're effective at getting them interviews and planting stories and doing things like that. It's me, in the sense that no one wants a coach who doesn't play the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not just some person that's here to go to parties. I don't give a crap about parties. I'm not here to be a fart sniffer or to draft off of someone or to swim in their wake. I'm a killer. I put toe tags on a lot of people, competition, left wingers, whatever. People that just didn't want to deal with Trump. And they know that. The Trump team knows that. And in the midst of all of this, I got also caught up with the RFK Jr. team. So full disclosure, Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. own a publishing house. It's called Winning Team Publishing. I am one of their publicists. And when it comes to RFK Jr., we do the media for his super PAC. And I've helped out on his books through Skyhorse Publishing, which is my client also.
I know Skyhorse will.
They're the two pillars here. And then beyond that, I've known Pete Hegseth, almost 20 years, since back when he was running Concerned Veterans for America. I've worked on his books. He's a friend of mine. I can vouch for him. This guy is just bleeds, red, white, and blue. I know Tulsi Gabbard. I met her in the last year. We worked on her book, which was for Regnery. So that's Treasury and DNI and DOD. I did a children's book with Michael Waltz, who's going to be a national security advisor.
Yes.
So I know him and his staff. His main chief of staff is Hugh Hewitt's son, actually, the radio host. He's solid. So him and Tulsi and Hegseth are all Army. And ironically, Waltz is a full colonel. So he outranks them all. Tulsi is a lieutenant colonel, and Pete's a major. So, which is interesting because he's actually going to be, he'll have the highest sort of ranking position to some degree. But it's interesting, all of them. And then if you go down the list, Vivek, we actually worked directly with Vivek's campaign last year. We were putting his surrogates out there. So Vivek is going to run this Doge, him and Elon. And, Peter Navarro is going to be running manufacturing and trade again. He's our client. Monica Crowley is going to be Assistant Secretary of State. She's our client. Guys like Ed Martin, who ran Phyllis Schlafly's organization, our buddy, friend, worked with him. He's going to be the chief of staff at OMB. Sergio Gore, who came up with me, is going to run the PPO office, Presidential Personnel Office. He actually is Donald Trump Jr.'s business partner and was running. He was with Rand Paul before that, Michelle Bachmann and others. So, I mean, look, I did Kimberly Guilfoyle's book years ago. So there's a large chunk, including Treasury. I don't want to leave out Scott Bessent. I know Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent was the owner of All Seasons Press, which put out Naomi Wolf's book, which put out a Peter Navarro book, put out the Tucker Carlson biography last year. He's going to be at Treasury. So, yeah, it's a Publius cabinet, which is just amazing. Maybe I've been in this too long. This has happened. But I can safely say I've never seen anything like it. I mean,
No.
we play a small part. I'm a humble servant, but the message is this, though. I don't know Kash Patel, although Kash and I have the same publisher, Post Hill Press. So I know him sort of tangentially through that. But let me just say this, and this includes Pam Bondi as well.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Lincoln was called the Great Emancipator, justifiably so. Didn't just emancipate the slaves, he emancipated America from the Southern Democrats. They wanted to preserve slavery, among other things. They were trying to cut deals with England, trying to get England involved in our Civil War. And I will say, Reagan was definitely the great communicator for various reasons. As a former Democrat, head of the Screen Actors Guild, union guy, testified about communism in Hollywood, him and Gary Cooper and others. But he was just a polished guy. He's a former actor, obviously. But he wasn't just speaking to the American people. He was speaking to the world a lot. And especially the people beyond the Iron Curtain. Trump is the great disruptor. He is the disruptor of the age. You know all about wokeism, ladies and gentlemen. You know all about globalism. I mean, he may trigger a prime minister of Canada to collapse here. Okay? That may
Sounds
be happening.
like it.
So the disruption continues. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, you got 2 phony impeachments and 4 phony indictments and 2 assassins. This is why. Because he is the great disruptor. Because yes, although, the fish does rot from the head, if he's going to fill a cabinet out, it's going to be a cabinet of disruptors. And I don't care whether it's RFK Jr. or Tulsi or Hegseth, Bondi, Kash, these are disruptors.
Mm-hmm.
So you wanted a great reset, you got one. It's coming in the form of the second Trump administration and all of their people that are going to be in charge up there. Marco Rubio, too. These are disruptors. And in some instances, these are these are some of the departments that they went to war against. Right? So you got it. So that's it. Trump is the great disruptor, and his cabinet is filled with great disruptors. We've had the privilege of working with most of them. And I like to think that Publius PR is also a disruptor. I can't really talk about these things while they're happening. But there was like an 18-month period where I was working with Trump through Winning Team Publishing, with RFK Jr. through his super PAC and his publishing house, and directly with the Vivek campaign, all at the same time. So I was the general manager of the Dodgers, the Red Sox, and the Yankees, all at the same time. I could talk about it now. Look, we're coming for you. The swamp better buckle up. Okay, they're all about to get a haircut.
Well, the reason I was asking about it is because I admire all of these people, and I voted for Trump, but I also voted for these people. So this is a team that I wanted to see as my team. I mean, when I thought about the Biden administration, the people that worked for him, I mean, it was absurd at times. And this is a team that I believe in, that I wanted to be in this position that we're in now. So I'm actually really excited.
Well, you should be. And, the problem is, and Kash knows this, and Monica Crowley knows it, Navarro knows it, all know it. You can't just remove these cabinet positions, the heads of these departments or, cabinet positions. You have to drop a bunker buster on 10 levels down, because it's the middle management here in the Porta-John that is your capital that is the problem. It was the middle management, like that Vindman, okay? Ukrainian Vindman and Ukrainian Congressman-elect Ukrainian Vindman now, that these were the ones listening in on the perfect phone call, right? These are the ones that push the very fine people hoax. These are the losers and the people that push the losers and suckers hoax. It's the middle management in the department, in the executive branch, and in some of these departments that are going to be your problem and have been the problem. Not just in the federal government, but these are the people at Spotify that wanted Joe Rogan gone because Neil Young had a problem with his position. These were the goofballs in the parking lot at Netflix that didn't like Dave Chappelle's jokes. So look, I chronicle all of that in my 2 books. This is who I've been up against.
Well, let's get to the book. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's the White Privilege album. And AJ, you did name your book after a band made up of 4 white guys.
I did. Well, mostly Irish, Ringo. And look, I want to apologize to the 4 boys from Liverpool. I don't want to apologize to Yoko, and I never apologize to Courtney Love. You need to understand that the double LP was not called the White Album. It was just called The Beatles.
That's true.
Okay? The nickname is the White Album. And I would say
that's true. That's true.
The cover of this is not really a take on. So I've got the old school hip hop parental advisory sticker, which I created my own. But I would say if you look at this is more representative of Pink Floyd's The Wall.
That crossed my mind as well. And I would say something about the advisory sticker. I used to work in the music business for many years, and here's the dirty secret. You want that on your record, your CD, or your cassette, or whatever it was back in the day, because it meant additional sales. But so, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't tell already, one of the hallmarks of AJ's work is humor, biting sarcasm, and a man after my own heart in that respect. Because a lot of times when you talk about heavy subjects and uncomfortable subjects, people will just tune it out immediately. But I've long said this, that if you can put ideas within the form of humor or art or a song or media, then sometimes people will ingest them, and later they're like, now I get it. So instead of beating people over the head with the truth, if you can have fun with it, we're at a point where humor is one of the last bastions of truth.
Without a doubt, comedians are the last line of defense, but they're also the first historians. They're the first people that tell us their version of history, right? And look, I grew up listening to Limbaugh, and he used to say his job was to use irreverent humor or absurdity to illustrate truth. And that is really what comedy is supposed to be. It's tragedy plus time, for sure. And it's the ability to transform horror into humor. I remember David Letterman after 9/11 took America some time to laugh again. And it was Letterman came out, gave a little speech. He's a New Yorker for the last 50 years of his life. And it was an interesting thing because he kind of let the country exhale and started telling jokes again. And America needed that. America needed that. I mean, Letterman's got some, he's got some kooky ideas. He looks a little bit like a Santa Claus that's on meth right now. But look, Letterman, you're not going to get another Letterman. And the bozos that are up there now, the Jimmies and the Stevens and the Stevens and the Jimmies, I mean, they are lazy. They're all sort of singing from the same song sheet. They're all sort of monochromatic, doughy Gen X guys. Fallon's not as bad. Fallon's got some of his own problems, but it's definitely not Johnny Carson. It's definitely not Dick Allen or Steve Allen or Dick Cavett or any of those guys, because it was a different time. And it's a shame because they should be equal opportunity offenders for sure.
Agreed.
Because look, I know you could throw Howard Stern in on this and a few other guys. I mean, the job of comedians, musicians, if you want to be an activist, actor, or playwright, whatever the hell it is, right? Your job is to put shackles on the levers of power. It's to mock the levers of power. It's to check them. It's to throw some rushback pitches at them. It's to keep them in line. And the old school left used to be this way. I mean, I don't care whether it's Daniel Ellsberg or Woodward and Bernstein or whoever, right? But what we now have is we have a group of people that have wrapped their arms around the Pentagon. They've wrapped their arms around Zelensky's bomb.
And the pharmaceutical industry.
They've wrapped their arms around the pharmaceutical industry, Pfizer and Moderna, whoever the hell else. So they're not exactly the gatekeepers of checking
No.
power. They're not Seymour Hersh. They're not Henry Miller. They're activists that, in a way, have been sort of absorbed by corporations and the government, right? So,
and they just want to go along to get along. I think because I live in LA, man. I've seen a lot of these people, including people that I know well, go from, and I know they're still reasonable people until it comes to politics. And I was like this complete outsider when I supported Trump, and I've said some of the things that I've said, and I've lost friends over it. But when it comes, they can be completely rational in every other aspect of their life. But then when it comes to politics, they go completely off the rails. And I want to shift gears here because one of the serious things that you talk about in the book is this idea of the bigotry of low expectations. And a lot of these people that I know cannot see this. Speak to this.
Well, sure. And this goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about earlier with all these different.
Yes.
Look, I mean, Trump has made the Republican Party more working class, more multi-ethnic. And for a lot of the media and for a lot of the head of the Democrat Party, whether it's Kamala or Barack Obama, whoever it is, they could never fathom to them that a non-white person would vote for Trump. They can't. Barack Obama goes to Pittsburgh and he rolls in, in his Brioni suit, fresh from one of his mansions in the whitest neighborhoods in America. And he goes in and talks to the brothers. And he walks in, a bunch of Steelers fans, auditorium full of black males. He goes, listen up, brothers. I'm hearing that some of you might not want to vote for Kamala because she's a woman, but she's from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
This is what he says. She's from the neighborhood. Now, look, I don't know what neighborhood she's from. Marin County, McGill University. I know that she scolded Biden for being in a forced busing situation in that debate. And then when she debated Trump, first thing out of her mouth, besides, a tequila burp, was, I'm from a middle-class family.
Yeah.
So which is it? Dre and so look, Dr. Dre and Ice Cube and DJ Yella and MC Ren and Eazy-E had a term for this. And it was studio gangster. She's a studio gangster. She's whoever the hell she wants to be based upon who is in front of her at the moment. And if there's one thing Americans hate, is a phony.
Yeah.
Americans respect two things: merit, and they respect, authenticity. So, love Trump or hate him, love Jack Kennedy or hate him, love Teddy Roosevelt, Andrew Jackson. You pick the person, the Harry Truman, the haberdasher. Love it. It doesn't matter who they are. If they're authentic, they'll vote for you. They'll trust you because you're not feeding them BS sandwiches. So Obama's standing there and he said to the brothers, you might be a sexist. You might be a misogynist if you don't vote your skin color. Right? Because
what they might just see is a vastly untalented politician who really has no core beliefs.
That's right. And look, the brothers don't have amnesia.
No.
They remember pre-COVID Trump and how well the country was doing. And they also remember the fact that Barack Obama was there for 8 years and really didn't do diddly for the hood. Fundraising for his freaking library the whole time.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I know he had Jay-Z and Beyonce in the Situation Room. And I know he was shooting hoops with D Wade and LeBron and Jeff Flake. Okay. All right. Fine. So he did a little bit of that. When it came time to appoint Supreme Court justices, he put two unmarried, childless cat ladies, paging J.D. Vance, on the Supreme Court named Sotomayor and Kagan. And then when he got that third shot, when Scalia died, he put your current Attorney General up, Merrick Garland, okay, a white male, right? So look, all the black people that were put on the Supreme Court were put there by white people, including the newest star of Broadway, Ketanji Brown Jackson, up there on Broadway doing some kind of trans Romeo and Juliet display, mean, she's got John Marshall written all over her, really. She's quite the role model.
One of the most poignant moments in your book to me, and this is deep, you talk about this interview between Mike Wallace and Morgan Freeman. And Mike Wallace, who frankly I was never really a fan of, but that's beside the point, asks Morgan Freeman, I don't know what year this was, I don't remember, but he asked Morgan Freeman, how are we going to get rid of racism? And Morgan Freeman responds, stop talking about it.
That's right. And look, the section of the book is called called Morgan Freeman History Month.
Yes.
So the audience should know that the book has 12 chapters, and each chapter is a month of the calendar year. So chapter 1, January, chapter 12, December. And then in each section, I do thematic vignettes. So obviously in February, I'm doing Black History Month, which I call Morgan Freeman History Month. Because, he doesn't just say that. He says, which month is yours, Mike? Which White History Month? He says, well, I'm Jewish. He goes, well, what's Jewish History Month? And he sort of slowly, and I don't think Morgan Freeman's sitting around reading Tom Sowell, but he sort of exposes the silliness of not only white guilt, but identity politics, and the fact that the left is obsessed with putting all of us in these little preconceived identity sushi menu boxes.
Yeah.
And he says, look, not only don't talk about it, but he says, look, I'm an American, I'm Black, but you're going to relegate my history to 1 month? No one's history should be relegated to 1 month. Look, on March 17th, every year, a small, tiny island in the North Atlantic takes over the planet without firing a shot. And everyone's invited. But most of Irish history doesn't take place on St. Patrick's Day, unfortunately. Right? So get a grip with this stuff. The this history and the that history and the left-handed midget paraplegic history, whatever the hell it is. It's insane. And I think the voters just spoke in a majority voice that we don't want to be divvied up into your little effing categories anymore. Right? If there's any history, it's red, white, and blue history. And it's not sinless. Nothing is. There was only one perfect person. If you believe in that, if you're a Christian, you believe in one perfect person. The rest of us, from George Washington to Michael Parker, are not perfect. Right? So stop getting in the Wayback Machine. Stop time traveling through world history, American history, and stop being pissed off that George Washington didn't have a gay friend. It's called presentism. It's when you judge the past by today's standards. Right? It's BS. It's BS.
AJ, I have told people for many, many years that, in my opinion, and I think you share it, you talk about it a bit in the epilogue, but basically a lot of these really bad ideas came from academia. They are then amplified in a huge way by the media, and we are bludgeoned over the head with this. And when I said disingenuous earlier, what I mean is that in my opinion, a lot of the ideas about DEI and what we now call wokeism is really intentionally divisive because it causes us to hyper-focus on our sex, our race, our gender, our pronoun, our religion, instead of thinking of ourselves as part of a whole, which would be Americans. Because if we were to think of ourselves in that respect, then we become much more difficult to divide and manipulate. It's divide and conquer. It's the oldest trick in the world, and I think that's what this is.
Right, and look, when you hear the term white privilege, I'm kidnapping the term back from the left. I'm abducting it, turning it around, I'm weaponizing it back against it. Whether you hear toxic masculinity or the patriarchy, or whatever the hell it is, what this is all really about is Western civilization. It's about the middle class, and it's about the nuclear family. Three things the left is trying to destroy, and they've always tried to destroy it. And when I say wokeism, I mean cultural Marxism.
Yes.
Okay? So, identity politics, social justice warriors, a little cancel culture, a little political correctness sprinkled in there. A lot of it does come out of academia, but some of it has been mainstreamed. And look, here's the thing: we are not a multicultural country. We're a multi-ethnic country. We have one culture here: Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian culture, Western culture. But if you come here legally, you can come to the Great Experiment, and you can participate in Western Civ and the middle class and the nuclear family. And there's upward mobility that's open for you. But just understand that, we can have the melting pot. We could go out on Cinco de Mayo and St. Patrick's Day, like I said. We can celebrate Columbus Day or Thanksgiving, whatever the hell it is. But that doesn't mean that we're going to throw out the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights and the scientific method and the rule of law and the things that make Western civilization different. Okay? We're different than Uzbekistan. We're different than Paraguay. Right? We're different. So, look, not all civilizations are created equal, and we have a great one. We have one that was probably the most impressive in Earth's history, and not all cultures are created equal either. And I'm sorry, it might not be politically correct, but that's why some of them go away. So, I am fighting to preserve some of that with my books, and I do it with a little bit of humor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the book, both The Walking Dead and the White Privilege album, I would describe them as a compendium of stories. And it's things, when you're reading, you're like, wow, I forgot about how crazy that was. And then the next story is just as crazy as the previous one. I mean, AJ, we've just emerged. Well, I hope that we're emerging, but the past 4 years, and actually even, I would say, maybe even 10, 12, 16 years have actually been pretty dark. There have been moments of hopefulness, but listen, I voted for Obama. Believe it or not, I did. And what I saw was a possibility, but in fact, upon further consideration, race relations went downhill as a result of him. And I do not think that that was unintentional. It gets back to this idea that I think that you're speaking of and what I'm speaking of, which was this intentional dissection of our population into smaller groups so we would fight amongst ourselves.
That's right. I mean, he midwifed Occupy Wall Street, which became Antifa, Black Lives Matter. He midwifed the Me Too movement.
100%.
The guy, I remember all the pieces about how we were about to enter a post-racial America. And, that lasted 5 seconds before the Cambridge police acted stupidly. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon and all the other stuff. He didn't really care that Baltimore was on fire or that Ferguson was on fire. You had those cops gunned down by BLM in that Dallas parking garage. People want to pretend like this stuff didn't happen. The only thing they cared about was Gabby Giffords, right? So they cared about that. And, ISIS was putting people in cages and lighting them on fire on the beach and filming it. And look, Obama did what Obama does. It's all really about him. He lost the House immediately to the Tea Party. And then he lost the Senate, which allowed Mitch McConnell to block Merrick Garland. Thank God. The last good thing Foghorn Leghorn did there, Mitch McConnell. But Obama was a radical figure. We're still not really sure who he is or where he is. Right. He always feels aloof. But he has been at war with Donald Trump since Donald Trump was bringing up the birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's the PISS dossier or what Comey was doing, the shadow campaign that was going on, Obama never left Washington, D.C.
No.
I think Trump finally vanquished Obama in this last election. I think he did. It took a decade.
I think you're right. And actually, that kind of brings me to my final point is sometimes you can watch an artist or you can watch a movement or something, and it reaches a point where it cannot get any bigger. And then from there, it implodes. And in this particular case, what I'm hoping that we have reached the final crescendo of all the madness, and maybe now we can go back to, they say the pendulum swings to and fro. I'm hoping that we can go back to a more reasonable place, and the craziness that we've seen for the last 10, 12, 16 years is receding. And when you talk about vanquishing Obama, I think that's one symbol of it. But I want to leave all of this optimistic. I feel optimistic. AJ, how do you feel?
I feel optimistic. We had a woke Waterloo moment here, and you can see, ESG and DEI receding a little bit. Different corporations are saying, this didn't work, and this garbage we just got our rear ends kicked here. But just understand that DEI and ESG and wokeism, they're just the latest trendy terms.
Agreed.
And the for cultural Marxism and for political correctness. So, the reality is that they will burrow in. They're like termites. They're like herpes, really. I mean, it's like a herpes flare up. And they will go dormant for a little while, but you will see them soon. You will see them soon. Some of them have learned their lesson. But when it comes to like the trans mafia is out there in force. They're trying to whack some of their own Democrats. The curse of the bearded lady will remain. And I think the curse of the bearded lady will haunt the Democrats going forward. They're fighting over bathrooms as we speak on Capitol Hill.
Yes.
So Jaguar is putting out ads that looks like a drag brunch. So, they're going to keep doing this stuff. And I think the American people will continue to whack them for it.
I would say look to Bud Light. If you need to see this in action, look what happened to those guys. Anheuser-Busch just threw it all away. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this show. AJ, thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed the books. Ladies and gentlemen, you can get both of them wherever you buy books. And The Walking Dead and the White Privilege album, I've read them both and I enjoy them both. AJ, thank you so much, brother.
Michael, you're a patriot. You got an audience of patriots. Let's do this again soon. Have yourself a happy, merry, White Privilege album Christmas.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed the show as much as I enjoyed doing it. And if you want to do a little Christmas gift for old Michael Parker, man, reach up there and press that like button or subscribe if you're not subscribed. It would mean the world to me. It helps out. I'm not asking you for money. Help a brother out. And until next time, keep your heart and your mind open. Peace.